And if I'm speaking to a believer, I will ask them, if God gave you life and that life is eternal, can you usurp the will of God and either take a life, whether it's another's or your own, or can it be taken from you?
Yeah, I feel this talk was very full circle moment in a way for me because there is a part of me that doesn't understand why I feel like my progress in remembering fully that death does not exist might sometimes get stuck or stagnant, and so it helped me that you questioned me, like the percentage, because it got me to think, like, where was the stopping point? And maybe the stopping point was some years ago. So that definitely needed a, not needed, but it was, because it happened, it meant that it was the right moment, that I needed an upgrade in thinking. And the last thought that made me feel best about death was, you know, the mission you have as a human body um is not as important as the one you have in your non-physical in the moment that you die. And that helped me a lot, you know. And I would say, like I would use term like, oh, angel instead of non-physical. So it became like a thing I could share with my aunts and other people that use those kinds of words, right? So it became like a more collective thing, and so
Inclusive.
that helped even more, right? I was like, um, oh, you know, my mother passed away because her mission in a human body was not as big as now in the exact moment that she passed away to become an angel, because then her being an angel was more important. But then, you know, learning about non-duality and how that's in a way judgment, and yeah, and it's not oneness, to be like something is more important than something else, then it got my mind.
Hierarchy, right? You have to let go of the idea, because this goes back to the root of us thinking we're not good enough. Am I not good enough for you to want to continue to be here with me? Am I not good enough to deserve was I not a good enough girl for my mom to stay with me? And at some point we have to ask the reason. I think this is probably part two, Marty. Well, let's just go ahead. This is my the purpose of bringing in Dick Van Dyke was twofold.
Yeah,
100 years old.
yeah.
At what point are we okay with allowing someone to retire
Mm.
from human beingness? At what point are we no longer, condemning of this process of departure? Because in the collective consciousness of human beingness, we're never happy.
Mm.
We're never happy when someone departs. Why not? I really am encouraging people to ask themselves this question. If someone lived, if a celebrity lived to 150 years of age, when they finally passed, would we still mourn them?
Mm.
What do we want from these people? What do we want from our parents who we love?
Mm.
Some of us, not us, there are some people who don't like their parents. We like our parents, Marty. I like my parents.
Mm.
There are some people who don't like their parents. And when their parents pass on, there's that guilt within them that they're happy they left. Only you should never be happy when someone dies. And so look at the confusion around this topic, around this process of this game, of this paradigm of what we're experiencing here. If God appeared in front of you and commanded that you be happy for the rest of your time here in this world, no matter what would you do? If you are a believer in God, if you're not a believer in God, mute me. If you're a believer in God and God appeared to you and said, I command, this is your function given by me, God. This is your God-given function to be happy no matter what for the rest of your time here. Would you pause and say, are you sure? Would you pause and say, how can I be happy? Look at all the horribleness happening in this world. Why are you allowing it to happen? If you, God, would stop all the horribleness happening in this world, then I could be happy. If then, not the best scenario to use the if-then strategy and formula. If something outside of me appears to me to be right, then I give myself permission to be relieved, at ease, feel safe, happy. It doesn't work. It's not going to work. There are too many elements at play. This game, I bring it back to this game, is based on variety and everyone's ability to block their awareness of the reality that love is all there is, and to inform the collective earth experience with all sorts of distorted perceptions. You waiting on the world to be peaceful for you to be peaceful, it's not going to work. You need to take control. We need to take control of our inner environment. And then project that. Then look upon the world with peaceful, loving eyes. So, I can't remember how I jumped in. Dick Van Dyke, Betty White. Those are the only two I can think of. Right? George Burns. These celebrities, these comedians. Oh, how about that? What did they do for a living? They laughed. They looked on the bright side. They entertained people. They made people laugh. And that enabled them to enjoy, to bring in joy to this collective experience. They experienced it for themselves. They felt joy and they shared it and they extended it. So let's change our mind. Let's make a determination. Let's set an intention, which is above and beyond let's try. Let's be determined and let's set an intention that we want to remain peaceful, no matter what the body's eyes are showing us. Let's accept the power that is within us, that we are power, we are energy. By thermodynamic definition, energy is the ability to do work. It's power. You're giving your power away by taking it away, by believing that someone else is powerless, believing that someone else didn't have a say in how things turned out for them. Take your power back. And at the same time, when you take your power back, you are empowering those who you are having this waking dream with. More?
Yeah,
What's coming up?
I was thinking that in one of our private calls, you were telling me that you sometimes feel like when someone feels the grief, on the other hand, it can be that they're sad that they didn't also depart. And so today I was actually visiting my grandma's sister, because another one of their sisters passed away a couple weeks ago. And my grandma passed away like 3 years ago now, right? So she's lost like these two sisters, and then she was very sad. She was very like depressed today, and she's I believe 92, I think she is. I think she's around that line, and she is in a state where her life is very monotonous and she sleeps a lot, and we all thought that like her biggest mission here was to support some people in our family that had a very strange disease called Huntington's.
Mm-hmm.
And it's highly heritable, and so many people in that side of my mom's family got it, and she had to take care of a lot of people that got this, and her home was basically that place where they kind of declined into all of their neurological deterioration up to becoming like in a vegetative state, and she would feed them, talk to them, love them until the very last day, and then deeply grieve them when they left. And then so she did that for many years, and then the daughter of the woman that was in the vegetative state also had that same disease, and same kind of process happened, but she lived much less than her mom because I guess she understood her mission was complete before or something like that. But anyways, all that to say that from the outside it looked like in their body they were kind of trapped in hell, because even to get a bite of food it would take so long, they couldn't then communicate, and they felt very frustrated, and so to the point where someone is in a vegetative state for decades and someone mourns that they left, then that extreme makes me realize maybe how to you it feels sometimes like yeah, like you were saying, the silliness of it, of like, oh, silly me, I forgot I was an infinite being, right? And
Right.
and so I think that kind of reminds me, right? That's the only position I can relate to, that I've been like, why would you not be happy they passed away? They were in a vegetative state. They weren't really able to communicate.
Right.
And and so I imagine that's kind of how you feel when I'm like, oh, I still
Well,
have to like,
I don't think it's silly, and I'm not judging you when
yeah,
you are pausing a little longer. And anyone, I mean, there are all sorts of situations where I am an audience to an explanation. Consider where I live. I live outside of, the largest Marine Corps base east of the Mississippi River, and my clients are and have seen. I mean, they are involved in some very, very dangerous, or clandestine type of interactions, and they come back from their missions, and they leave their brothers behind. Their brothers don't come home with them. And I never look, and I know you're not saying it literally, but I don't think it's silly. I think what's silly is overall our collective willingness to believe something that doesn't make sense. Because as soon as you go into specifics, then we don't use the word silly anymore, right? We pause and we say, like, can we acknowledge that on a scientific level, energy is what makes us alive?
Yeah.
Can we acknowledge that without all of the forms of energy, be they electrical, electromagnetic, electrochemical, without that energy, there is no life? And then can we acknowledge that energy cannot be destroyed? And if I'm speaking to a believer I will ask them, quite frankly, if God gave you life, and that life is eternal, can you usurp the will of God and either take a life, whether it's another's or your own, or can it be taken from you? You cannot usurp the will of God. The will of God is infinite eternal life for himself and for his creations. Period. Period. There's no footnote to that. And so if you are a true believer, then there shouldn't be any doubt in your mind that what you are witnessing and observing with the body's eyes is an illusion. You might have attached a lot of, faith misplaced in what the body's eyes are showing you. You might have done that. I encourage you to forgive yourself. Forgive yourself for believing that perception is reality. Forgive yourself that there was ever a point in your existence that you wanted to test out whether the infinite eternal could cease to exist. Forgive yourself for somewhere in the dark corners of your mind wanting to usurp the will of God and take a life. Forgive yourself for believing that God would want you to do that. And sit quietly for a few seconds, 30 seconds, a minute, when you are disturbed, when your peace is disturbed. Sit quietly in that faith that you cannot usurp the will of God, and wait for your next instructions. You have a role to play in this game, in this waking dream, in this mass hallucination. You have a role. Don't take the role so seriously that you suffer and that you sacrifice your peace for it. You will delay your return home, and you will delay your ability to gather your brothers in and walk with them back to that destination that we all think we're going towards, but that we never left.
Yeah. Thank you. And so to close the circle on the 92-year-old woman that, has diabetes, it's the same thing every day, lives in a fourth floor apartment but can't go out because she's too depressed, and seeing all her sisters die. This time I saw her, what our family thought her big mission had ended, right? Of taking care of these people with Huntington's, and how much she loved them and how much she poured into them. And we were like, oh, she must be going soon now. And then one of those person left, then another one got the Huntington's, and they were helped immensely by her, and then she was still there. And then my grandma passed away, which was her sister, and then another sister passed away 2 weeks ago. And so it's also so interesting because maybe what we see or observe as thinking, oh, that must have been their biggest mission. What a show of unconditional love, of talking to someone sweet in a vegetative state for decades and loving them the same and doing that must be her mission. Right. And so I've just thought how interesting it is that I don't know, it's kind of like a top secret of like what everyone's mission truly is, and it might not be what outwardly looks like the biggest, boldest thing they've done, because I still can't fathom like all that she did to support all the family members that have gone through this very weird
Debilitating.
disease. Yeah,
Yeah.
it sounds like literally from a nightmare. It's very strange. It's very crazy. And 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 so when I remembered you saying some people may feel the grief because they're like, I wish I could have been in that boat with you. And I think seeing her today, the first time after this happened, I truly felt that she she was more grieving the fact that she was still kind of in this earth,
Here.
sleeping most of the day, even falling asleep during a conversation, and being very, very alone and only having visitors on the weekends, and being like, I wish we could have gone like at the same time, or I
Yeah.
wish I didn't have to wait to meet you sooner. And so that's finally when that thought you gave me kind of fully dropped in.
So yes, let's go there. That so often we do want to go home. We want to, I mean, I would be remiss if I didn't say I would like to go home. I would like to go home. Why am I still here? Because my mission is not complete. When will that mission be complete? You'll know, right? I promise you'll know when my mission is complete. But if you're still showing up day in and day out here in this theater, your mission's not complete. But part of your mission is to be happy no matter what. And so when you see people who are unhappy no matter what, the outward appearances that they're not doing it the right way might fool you. Maybe it's their mission to block their memory of why they came. If everyone came to be an example, a reflection of reality, if everyone truly came to make this planet paradise, it does seem that a lot of us have forgotten that. So maybe that was their mission, to forget why they came and offer us the contrast of what it looks like when you are blocking your memory of who and what you really are. And yes, we all want to go home. We do. And if we deny that, if we say, no, I want to stay here forever, we're lying. Someone offered you an opportunity, Mari, to stay youthful, healthy, not wanting for anything in this world for 500 years. What would you say?
No thanks.
Do you know that I ask my clients, I say, okay, well, what about 200 years? You want to hang out here for 200 years? They'll come up with all sorts of conditions like, well, do my loved ones get to stay? Well, we'd have to ask them, do you want to stay 200 years? And the truth of the matter is you can stay as long as you want. You don't want to. You don't want to be here any longer than you have intended. So release the ones who have left from the obligation in your own mind that they left before you were ready for them to go. Free them. Release them. And when those whom you love appear to be on their way out, support them. Reassure them that there's no end to them. Let them know that you're not giving up on them, that you'll be able to feel them, and that you'll be receptive to them continuing to communicate with you. once they have departed.